I'm going to put three stories back to back, in fact. And the first is Niantic. The headline here, Pokemon Go creator Niantic cancels 4 projects, cuts 8% of staff. So that's about 85 to 90 jobs. The company, they're saying, is facing a time of economic turmoil, and they're already reducing costs in a variety of areas. It says they need to streamline their operations to best position the company to weather any economic storms that may lie ahead. Now, they canceled projects like a Transformers game, a game called Hamlet, which was a collaboration between Niantic and Punch Drunk, and then a couple of other games. It says, they obviously failed with their Harry Potter game, but they failed to replicate the success of Pokemon Go. I want to put this next to this story of Unity, where it's the headline here was video game technology maker Unity Software cutting more than 200 jobs. What they're saying is that's about 4% of staff. And that's, out of the almost 6,000 employees that they have. It says the move was part of a continued planning process that reflects the company's long-term priorities. A bit of corporate speak that doesn't say much. That sort of bothers me. But no real reason in terms of why they made these layoffs. Unfortunately, there was this story, part of this article even mentions it, that the CEO had told staff that their jobs were secure and that the company had no plans for layoffs, and then laid off 200 people literally days later, which is not good. So there's those two stories. And then I want to put the third story here because it's all the same, call it theme. Guild Esports announcing job cuts and a £5 million loss in their latest financial update as staff move into new London office. So they lost £5 million for the last 6 months. So in the last their last financial update. So this is in the 6-month period. They've also fired some people, about 15 people, I think. So they went from 45 to 30, which is on a percentage basis quite large. And what they're saying is, this is the quote from Guild Esports, as a result of growing economic uncertainty and challenging market conditions, significant action was taken in the first half to streamline the company's cost base. These measures include a rationalization of suppliers and right-sizing staff members. So big loss after a big loss in the previous period, and some layoffs. I just want to preface this whole conversation because people sometimes take this the wrong way. Layoffs are always unfortunate. We feel for all the people who lost their jobs. We hope they land on their feet. We hope they find something even better. Obviously, anyone can reach out to any of us, hopefully network with any of us. There's always opportunities, I think, in gaming. And so it's bad news, no question. But let's break it down from a business standpoint, guys, and try and get behind, what's going on here? What do we think are the forces at work? Are all these three cases the same? Do we believe what the companies are saying? So we have Niantic, we have Unity, and we have Guild Esports. What do you make of this? And, your thoughts in general and maybe specific to one or all of them.
So to me, these are all difficult, to acknowledge. And as you mentioned, never taking pleasure in something like this, and obviously thoughts and condolences going out to these people that have lost their jobs. Niantic for me was a tough one to swallow in particular, mostly because of how much I respect what they're doing specifically in AR and VR. And I think that that's a particular industry where we see a lot of potential for the future of the metaverse, and a really particular success story with Pokemon Go, that when you see an 8% cut from a player like that not only is a significant percentage, but also in a particular niche or industry that you would hope to see more growth and innovation out of. And by the way, these are only 3 or 4 stories that we're covering right now. I mean, I know tons of people at Corsair that are also being let go, and other companies citing supply chain issues and slash marketing budgets. So the reasons are a little different. Obviously, there's a lot of economic uncertainty going on right now. Supply chain issues have been a common scapegoat whether or not it's entirely accurate, which obviously I have no reason to disbelieve that. But when you see these trends, it's unfortunate, but definitely something that, it's not just happening in gaming, right? We see this happening with the auto industry and other industries as well. So, of course, never happy to see someone losing their job, and we all hope that this industry continues to grow and thrive, and confident, that these people will land on their feet, maybe in play to earn or in other sectors of gaming that seem to still be doing quite well relative to the whole. But yeah, for me, that was the one insight I wanted to offer was, geez, Niantic really paving the way for what they're doing, and I hope that doesn't set back the innovation coming out of the AR community.
Lindsay, any thoughts or?
Yeah, so Jimmy covered a lot of this, but there's obviously a ton of global uncertainty between the pandemic and the supply chain and the war and all the other stuff that's going on that's making it really hard to keep up with the global economy. I do feel like the era of, the move fast and break things and growth at any cost and all of that is kind of going by the wayside, which I think in the end is going to be a good thing because I think companies should be focusing on creating a strong revenue model before they focus on just grow, 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 grow. I'm sort of excited to see that come to an end. Obviously, that's coming to the end at the expense of a lot of people who weren't necessarily the decision makers in implementing that process. So that's definitely sad. But I think as we enter into a global kind of economic uncertainty, you're going to see a lot more hesitancy in investment, which means hopefully a lot more of those investment dollars are going to be put into things that actually generate revenue. And I'm not saying that Niantic, Unity, and Guild didn't. I think Guild is probably the one I'm the least certain of. Niantic and Unity have a lot more positive things going for them in terms of product and sales. And as Jimmy noted, I am sad to see that, particularly with Niantic. I think they're a little early on the curve, which is part of the advantage, obviously, to being the first, but also the disadvantage in that they're not going to have the same pickup for every single game that they produce. It's still a little bit of a newer technology. But I certainly hope that across the gaming sector and tech sector at large, because tech sector is famous for this. I hope there'll be more of a consideration for how revenue is actually being generated and reinvested in the company rather than this emphasis on like endless growth, which clearly is not endless.
Yeah, no, I just want to read some comments here, guys, and I want to touch on two things both of you said here. Bobby said, "I'm finally able to catch a live, but sounds like the end. Bummer." Bobby, don't worry, still some time left here. So, but hopefully you can make it for our new time, 2:30 p.m. Eastern time every Wednesday. Matt says, "It certainly seems like Niantic's a one-hit wonder. They haven't been able to do anything since 2016 when Pokemon Go came out." Matt, this was a point I was going to make, which is, and again, let me preface this by saying it's extremely unfortunate the people who lost their jobs. It is not their faults, right? Like the failure of the companies often has, and in this case, definitely has nothing to do with the people who were laid off, right? Like all these problems start from the top. And so I'm not putting fault on anyone who was laid off here at all. And I think it's incredibly unfortunate that they're the victims of bad decision making at the top. But let's face it, Niantic has just had one hit game, and then every game after that was basically just a reskin of the first game. I mean, instead of catching Pokemon, you were catching, like basketball, like their latest NBA World, whatever, like you're literally catching players, recruiting players. This is the same mechanics. It's the same, like, it's no innovation. You don't innovate, you die. I mean, this is the reality of business, especially in a high-tech industry. And so, like, the Niantic thing, to Matt's point, does not surprise me at all. Bobby says, "Hello from Alaska. I run one of Alaska's only recreational esports leagues along with a local ISP. Longtime podcast listener, hoping to be able to watch the lives more often. Keep up the great work." Bobby, I love that you said that. Thank you. I'm humbled that you've been listening to the podcast. Hope you can be at every live stream. We're so happy that you got to make it here. Matt says, "Guild isn't that surprising, but Unity and Niantic are because those are pretty respectable gaming organizations." I'm going to come back to that. Chris says LCS summer split in LA failed to attract a buying consumer market. Worth keeping an eye on what happens in the finals in Atlanta. You know, this is why I think it's so important that we talk about esports and gaming very separately, because I think esports in terms of live event, paying to go to an event like an LCS summer split in the same way paying to go to a concert. When you have recession and people's wallets are tight, this is the first thing that goes. What doesn't go is the incredibly great bang for your buck, paying $60 for a game or playing a free-to-play game and spending nothing on cosmetics and getting 1,000 hours of entertainment out of it. I mean, that is not going anywhere. There's going to be a ton of growth there. And this is why I think we always have to be talking about esports and gaming separately. Bobby says LCS and Worlds in general seem to have lost a lot of the momentum they had in years past. I mean, I don't know if Jimmy or Lindsay, you guys agree. I do think specific problems with recent live event may only be because of tightening purse strings, right? Of people who are you know,
everything else that's going on. Yeah.
That's it. Yeah. Bobby says, Chris, I enjoyed the episodes you were recently in. Phenomenal insight you made for one heck of a guest. I need to follow you on socials. You'll probably hear from me one day. I mean, Chris was one heck of a guest and one of my most fun, in my mind, one of the most fun episodes we've done. All right. My 2 cents on this. Guild was always kind of doomed, just like it never made a whole lot of sense to begin with. And so, I mean, great that I don't know if there's any great thing there. There's no good news. I'm trying to find some silver lining here, but I don't think there is. And it's unfortunate the people who got laid off, because I don't know if Guild survives long term. Probably not, in my opinion. Niantic has to innovate. To me, that's clear. No amount of cost cutting is going to save them if they don't put out another great game. Like, cost cutting is always the go-to, but in reality, that's not the core of the problem. And I think that's always unfortunate that people lose jobs when the problem is product, not cost. Unity is the more interesting one. I think it's an absolute horrible thing when a CEO says, "Don't worry, no one's getting laid off," and then lays off 200 people like that. Let's call this totally unacceptable. It's not behavior that should be ever okay. But I feel like Unity's a public company, and it's sort of easy to cut some cost, juice your bottom line a little bit, and then blame it on, the economy. When in reality, I think Unity's business is incredibly strong, right? Like, Unity's business is not in trouble. They could probably shoulder the cost of those 200 extra employees. This feels like a little bit of, here's an opportunity, we can blame it on something. It's an unfortunate reality, but it happens, and it happens quite a bit. But it is an unfortunate reality for the people who lost their jobs. I don't know if you guys want to react to that before I read other comments, or.
I think, let's keep going.
Justin says, I also think LA really isn't the esports hub that esports orgs think it is, and probably need to move. Seems like Texas really gets the people to join these events. Justin, I 1,000% agree. That is, the people need to be saying this more. LA, I think, is so overrated as an esports. It's not even an esports hub. You just have a handful of money losing orgs that all planted themselves there. And Activision Blizzard's there. But Activision Blizzard is becoming increasingly irrelevant in the bigger gaming puzzle. Like, that's just the fact, right? What's the last good game they've made? It's unfortunate, but this is a smart comment. I really agree with it.
Yep.
Justin says, Nintendo's also waiting, I'm sure, to at least buy Pokemon Go, I think, and can maybe save some. That's an interesting thought. Do we think Nintendo buys Niantic?
I would love to see that. It just, I haven't seen Nintendo make a truly innovative play like this in some time. They're more for tugging on nostalgia and reimagining their existing IP. I would love that, Justin.
It would be interesting. It would be interesting. I think there are buyers for Niantic. And I think what's going to happen if, we're in full-blown recession mode, the prices of these big development studios are going to come down, and there will be more consolidation. I think there's a big buying opportunity coming. I think. Matt says, "Paul, stop! You'll hurt Jimmy's feelings." I'm not. Jimmy's not even in LA, so like.
It's not the first time someone, Matt, has shared that LA has a overinflated sense of self-importance. I think I'll be okay, but I appreciate it.
Chris says, "Agree, Justin. That's why that one team that went to the lonely Midwest made the smartest of moves as of late." I think, Chris, you're referring to Immortals. We had on the podcast, and I do agree that was
the Silicon Prairie. It's real.
Is that what they call it? Silicon Prairie?
I just heard that recently. Yeah.
Okay. Interesting.
I know.
Interesting. I'll add again, and I've said it before, everyone's sleeping on the GCC. Everyone's sleeping on Saudi Arabia still. Everyone's sleeping on UAE. I'm telling you, you're all going to think I'm some genius 2 years from now, but I've been saying this for a year, and I'm going to continue to say it. Matt says that would be genius. Put a camera on the Switch and start making AR games. Actually, that is really smart. I mean, Nintendo has a great mobile device hardware business. I mean, it does seem like a match potentially made in heaven, assuming there's cultural fit, right? That's always the big question mark with something like Nintendo. And then again, it can't just be like Mario collecting coins in AR, right? Like it can't just be more of the same. I think that's the big problem. Once you've played Pokemon Go, you've sort of played every Niantic game ever made.